Welcome to Waters World. I'm Jesse Waters. Backfiring activism, that is the subject of tonight's Waters Words. Hardcore Democratic activists are threatening to overwhelm the rest of the party. They disrupt peaceful events, make threats, and cause violence. This week we saw a teenager attacked for wearing a Make America Great Again hat. And that teen's going to join me later for an exclusive interview. On July 4th in Lower Manhattan, Americans were sightseeing with their families, celebrating our independence, and preparing to watch the fireworks. Suddenly, a radical African immigrant activist began scaling the Statue of Liberty. The woman, part of the Trump resistance movement, refused to come down. Police and firemen were deployed. The entire Liberty Island, filled with 4,000 tourists, was evacuated. The statue was closed. 3,000 visitors were turned away on the monument's busiest day of the year because one selfish individual didn't agree with President Trump's immigration policy. And after a 4-hour standoff, she was arrested. Teresa Como, born in the Congo, was slapped with a few misdemeanor charges. She's probably not even going to spend a day in jail. Now, after costing the city tax dollars and man hours, diverting valuable police resources from fighting real crime, and ruining thousands of Americans' visit to the Statue of Liberty on July 4th, President Trump weighed in at a rally earlier in Montana.
You saw that clown yesterday on the Statue of Liberty? I would have said, let's get some nets and let's wait till she comes down. Just get some nets. Really.
This self-centered stunt artist has a wacky past. She's filed several seemingly frivolous racial discrimination lawsuits against various entities. She had run-ins with neighbors. She's been slapped with nearly $5,000 in fines by the Department of Sanitation. She's also been arrested for trespassing and assaulting a police officer. And following her release from jail this week, Okomo said she was inspired by Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama, our beloved First Lady that I care so much about, said when they go low, we go high, and I went as high as I could. Trump has wrecked this country apart. Nothing you can say to me would justify putting children in cages. Only a stupid, unintelligent, coward, and insecure, I will add a maniac, will rip a tender-aged child from its mother.
First of all, I don't think Michelle Obama wants your endorsement. Second, the photo of a child in a cage, that image she's talking about, was from 2014. The Obama administration did that. Trump didn't put that kid in a cage. Fake news is now causing real rage. We all want families to stay together, so let's all work together to achieve that goal while at the same time protecting our border and protecting children from fake parent human smugglers. And radical Democrat activist tactics have turned regular Americans against their party and their cause. You'll remember Black Lives Matter protesters disrupted the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade while parents were celebrating the holiday with their young kids. Occupy Wall Street protesters who wanted higher income for workers shut down traffic in Detroit so people couldn't commute to work on time and earn their income. Left-wingers who were screaming about Trump's rhetoric on Muslims and immigrants caused mayhem during his inauguration and firebombed a limo owned by a Muslim immigrant. Idiots. Democrats protested an ICE raid in Oakland.
ICE is not welcome in this country. HSI is not welcome.
We're going to fight back. We're not going to let people just disappear like this.
Turns out ICE was conducting a raid on human sex traffickers. Democrats actually rallied against this. You can't make this stuff up. So after the family separation controversy at the border and all the recent street action by Maxine Waters' left-wingers, Trump's approval rating is up with Hispanics. It's up 10 points. This according to a Harvard-Harris poll released just a few days ago. Amazing, isn't it? And now the most important issue determining people's votes in the midterms, immigration, largely driven by Republican enthusiasm. So Democrats, Your radical tactics are backfiring. Be careful what you wish for. Here to react, 2012 Republican presidential candidate and Fox News contributor, Herman Cain. So, Mr. Cain, what would you have done with that woman that scaled the Statue of Liberty if you were in charge?
Well, I would have waited until she got hungry enough and thirsty enough to voluntarily come down. The human body can only take so much hunger and thirst, and I would have just waited her out.
Just waited her out and starved her out. But then they wouldn't have been able to go up and tour the Statue of Liberty. Everyone wouldn't have been able to visit.
You're right. That whole incident, Jesse, was just another example of, and I know these words are harsh, another example of the ignorant narrative of abolish ICE. It's ignorant because most people who are claiming they want to abolish ICE, they have no idea what ICE does. 1/3 of ICE's activities revolve around immigration and the border. 2/3 revolve around fighting crime, drugs, sex trafficking, and a whole lot of other things. They have no idea.
You're
so
exactly right. And we just
following a narrative. Yes.
We just showed that video of those protesters. They actually were protesting an ICE raid on a human sex trafficking ring in the interior of the country, in Oakland, California, or north of the southern border. They don't get it, and it's these people that are turning regular Americans against their cause. We saw that with Black Lives Matter when they were disrupting things. We saw that with Occupy Wall Street. All of these little protest movements, they start off, righteous cause against police brutality. They want higher wages, but their tactics are so rude and disrespectful. These are now movements are so marginalized that no one takes them seriously anymore.
You're absolutely right. In the case of abolish ICE, Jesse, I don't even call it a movement yet. It is simply an ignorant narrative. And a lot of people, unfortunately, are falling for it because I don't believe that these protests are spontaneous. I believe that they're manufactured. And in order to have a manufactured protest or multiple protests across the country, somebody is paying somebody to make it happen, and maybe even some of the protesters. I'm just saying.
You're exactly right, because I looked into this, and the Resist Trump, or what, Rise and Resist, whatever this woman's group was, if you go down to the bottom, below what they stand for, there's a little donation thing from Act Blue. And Act Blue is this big kind of mainstream media, mainstream Democrat, financial clearinghouse where they run all the donations through. And I looked into what Resist and Rise, or whatever it is, stands for. They want to get rid of nukes. They want to get rid of Sean Hannity. They idolize Stormy Daniels. They're for kneeling during the national anthem, and they want to oust the Trump regime, whatever that means, Mr. Cain.
It's called anarchy. Anarchy begins with creating as much violence, disruption, and distortion in the society as you possibly can. But here's the good news, Jesse. A lot of people are responding to the narrow lens of the media, as I described. They put the narrow lens of the liberal media on all of these fringe protest activities, people climbing up to the base of the Statue of Liberty. That does not represent America. The numbers you quoted earlier about President Trump's approval rating going up with Hispanics, they're going up with everybody. Why? Because real people with real sense aren't falling for this malarkey. That is the good news in the middle of all of this chaos.
Yes, America is resisting the resistance. Mr. Cain, thank you very much.
Happy to be with you, Jesse.
Now, Hollywood liberals feeling less than patriotic on all days the 4th of July. Chelsea Handler tweeting, "To every country on the 4th of July, we're sorry about our president. He doesn't reflect all of our views, and we hope you know that the majority of us are ashamed. We will rally each other and come back to the world one step at a time." Michael Moore said this, "Happy Resistance Day. The revolt continues some 242 years later. Come on, people, let's finish this." Ooh. And not to be left out, Dan Rather wrote, on this 4th of July, I refuse to let Donald Trump have the flag of the United States as his own. I refuse to have the Pledge of Allegiance sullied by the jingoism and divisions of our present national leaders. I refuse to have the Star-Spangled Banner used as a cudgel against principled speech. I refuse to let the best of this nation be debased and weaponized against truth and justice. I refuse to bow to cynicism. So why aren't liberals proud of America on the 4th of July? Joining me now, former senior advisor to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Philippe Reines, and conservative commentator Gina Loudon, who is a member of President Trump's Media Advisory Board. So, Gina, I'll start with you. Do Democrats have a patriotism problem?
Well, polling suggests that perhaps they do. Polling suggests that, in fact, Democrats tend to be patriotic based upon who is actually occupying the White House rather than the founding principles of America, such as the Constitution, the struggles of our founding fathers to establish our country, those kinds of things. That's what conservatives tend to base their patriotism on. And not only that, Jesse, Democrats feel more patriotic when they're doing things like protesting, when they actually, 51% of them, I believe, said that they believed a patriotic thing to do was to break a law or to refuse to go to a war or to burn a flag. So you can see that the lines are very different between what Democrats and perhaps conservatives or Republicans consider patriotism.
Yeah, Philippe, I mean, wow. Burning a flag is patriotic, breaking laws are patriotic. I don't think that's what most Americans believe, do you?
Well, most Americans don't approve of what Donald Trump is doing. You know, you can cite polls where his numbers are going up. His numbers are still abysmal. He is someone.
So wait, what does that have to do with patriotism?
Well, I don't think any of this has anything to do with patriotism. July 4th is not just about bottle rockets and hot dogs. 242 years ago, it was the ultimate protest telling King George that we're not going to have any more of this. I think what's as divisive, if not more so, is other things that were going on July 4th. To talk about the poll that both you and Dr. Gina were just referring to, your own Britt Hume sent a tweet that he had to later take back because it was unfair to label Democrats as being unpatriotic.
Well, you know, before we get into whatever Britt Hume said, I'm not familiar with that. Let's actually take a look at the poll. And this is from Gallup. National pride dropping among Democrats. Now, if you look at 2018, just 32% of Democrats, proud Americans, Republicans, 74%. But I mean, from 2013, you know, it's gone down by, you know, more than 20 points. That was when Barack Obama was president. Republicans have pretty much stayed the same. I mean, what do you account for that?
Well, the bulk of the drop started in 2015 forward, and the bulk of the Republican spike has started in 2015 forward.
It's not much of a spike. Come on.
Well, but this is essentially a referendum on Donald Trump. These numbers about pride have been going down since before 9/11 with both parties. Look, in an ideal world,
not as much on the Democrat side compared to the Republican side. Let me move on.
Because this is a referendum on Donald Trump.
I really don't think it is, because he wasn't president in 2015, Philippe. Now, I honestly do think the Democrats have a patriotism problem, Gina, because when you talk about what they did with the kneelers during the national anthem, they sided with them. You know, a lot of people on the left and the media sided with Kim Jong-un against Donald Trump. And we saw Bill Maher the other day rooting for an economic recession. It just seems to me, based upon their behavior and their rhetoric, that they don't like America when it's robust, when it's succeeding, and when it's, you know, patriotic. Or is that too large of a jump?
I wish it weren't, Jesse. I hate the whole thing, to be honest with you. I think all the time, I feel like if we could sit down, Republicans and Democrats, and have a conversation, I don't think there's that much we disagree about. But I do think the rhetoric of the leadership, of the media, and of the Hollywood elite is influencing people who are participating in these polls to say some outlandish things. And even Philippe didn't deny when I said that some Democrats' patriotism is based on burning a flag or on protesting or refusing to go to war and those kinds of things, so, or breaking a law. And so if that's the kind of thing they're basing it on, Jesse, it's a sad day in America for them.
I don't want to sit here and diminish anybody's patriotism. I don't want to question anybody's patriotism. I'm just looking at the behavior. And when you protest July 4th, when you protest Columbus Day, when you kneel during the national anthem, it's just a lot of people get the wrong idea, Philippe, when people do that. That's all we're saying.
What idea do people get when Alex Jones of InfoWars says that the Democratic Party is about to launch a civil war on July 4th? What message does it send when the right attacks NPR for tweeting out the Declaration of Independence one at a time? What kind of message does it send when Donald Trump...
I don't remember those things, but I do know that Bill Maher... I do know that but Moore... Michael Moore said, let's revolt. Let's finish it this time. That sounded like he was calling for a little violent action against King Trump.
Look,
but I got to leave it at that. Guys, both of you two are very patriotic, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thanks. You too, Jesse.
Coming up, Ben Shapiro on the Supreme Court picks and a Waters World exclusive. The boy attacked for wearing his Make America Great Again hat is here. Stick around.
His only thoughts, to me, are to work with Vladimir Putin to make Russia great again. And what I don't understand...
He's been a lot harsher on Putin than Obama was, by the way.
Harsher on Putin?
Not in terms of his rhetoric, in terms of his actions. He has armed the people of Ukraine with deadly weaponry, which Obama would not do. 200 Russian soldiers were killed in Syria by U.S. forces under Donald Trump, not under Barack Obama. It was Barack Obama who was saying to Dmitry Medvedev that he wanted to provide him with flexibility in 2012. Crimea was annexed under Barack Obama.
Ben Shapiro in the liberal lion's den this week with Bill Maher, the editor-in-chief of DailyWire.com, joins me now. Now, I think the only reason you really stumped him there, Ben, was because he was high. He smokes before the show, we're hearing. That might have accounted for him not being able to respond that quickly. But I want to talk to you about the top 3 SCOTUS picks that President Trump's ruminating about. Tell me what your assessment is of Brett Kavanaugh, who seems to be the early establishment insider frontrunner.
So I'm a little bit dicey on Brett Kavanaugh, and the reason is not just because he's sort of the Bush insider pick. He's obviously very close with the Bush team. He was one of the forces behind the selection of John Roberts. But there are 2 specific cases in which Brett Kavanaugh has I think done less than originalists would like. So in one particular case, he denied jurisdiction on Obamacare because he said that Obamacare was actually a tax. It was the first time anybody had made the argument that Obamacare was a tax rather than a fine. And as you'll recall, that was the logic that ended up being used by Chief Justice Roberts in determining that Obamacare was in fact legal under the Constitution. So the original logic for that came from a Kavanaugh dissent in a case called Seven Sky.
Well, that's not a good thing. Very concerning to a lot of people. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's another case called Priest for Life in which Kavanaugh suggests that the government had a compelling government interest in providing contraceptive care via insurance to folks. And there are a lot of critics who suggest that case is a little bit of evidence that he takes too seriously the government's stated interests in particular leftist social issues.
But he is considered a strong conservative choice. The Wall Street Journal editorial page endorsed him. Matt Schlapp, American Conservative Union, has also endorsed him. It wouldn't be a bad pick. You're saying we could do better. And one of the people I've heard you discuss is Amy Barrett, who I think now a lot of the social conservatives and the constitutional conservatives are really getting behind at the last minute. She seemed to be surging. What are you hearing about her?
So the truth is that Coney Barrett's actual judicial resume is very short because she's only been on a federal circuit court for about a year, ever since she had those really contentious hearings with Democrats where they accused her of having the doctrine live loudly within her and Catholicism was going to rule the day and all this kind of nonsense. So what we know about her is that she's written a lot in terms of academic writing. A lot of her academic writing has centered on originalism and textualism. She's a big supporter of the doctrines and philosophies of Justice Scalia. She's obviously personally very pro-life. And so yeah,
she
and
clerked for
again,
Scalia, and she's only,
She
what,
did.
46 years old? So that would be a
Correct.
very, very long time on the bench if she ever was appointed. And Catholic person, like you said, an originalist, really interprets the Constitution as it was written. And now we're hearing about Raymond Kethledge. Now, Raymond Kethledge, the third person, he was the runner-up to Gorsuch. And now he's making a late surge, too. He clerked for Kennedy, University of Michigan guy. What do you know about him?
So Kethledge's resume is quite good. His decisions are very strong. They're well worded. He tends to write strong opinions. I would say that Brett Kavanaugh's opinions are very politically inclined in the sense that he's attempting to create sort of cohesion on the court. Kethledge's opinions are a lot more kind of punch you in the nose opinions. He has a very strong record on the Second Amendment in particular. He also has a very strong record with regard to something called Chevron deference, which is the idea that when an administrative agency makes a judgment that can still be, the Chevron deference suggests it shouldn't be overruled by the judiciary. He says the judiciary is a separate branch and the judiciary should overrule what the judiciary has to overrule, which I think is correct.
Okay.
I think Kethledge is a strong candidate.
Okay, so if you were to rank the most conservative to the least conservative, or the person that you would like to see on the bench the most, you probably would choose Barrett, number one. I'm hearing maybe Kethledge 2, Kavanaugh 3. Do I have that right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, but all solid picks to replace Justice Kennedy, who is the swing justice. All right, now
I think that's right. I think that's right. Although I would say that the best shot that one of them ends up being Roberts is probably Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Roberts, not the best, but still really not that bad. And this new memo we're seeing from Peter Strzok, our old friend at the FBI, something that we've just uncovered. You know, I don't know why this didn't come up in the IG report or any of the other requests to turn over these memos and text messages. There was something that said, hurry the F up to pressure to probe the Trump campaign. And this was in the fall 2016. So he's talking about hurrying this thing up, obviously politically motivated and electorally motivated. What is your thinking behind that? It's just more and more nonsense, or what?
It's not a shock at all. I mean, Michael Horowitz in that IG report suggested that Peter Strzok was making decisions to privilege the timing of the Trump investigation above the Hillary investigation. In fact, one of the reasons they say that the Hillary investigation, the reopening of the Hillary email investigation, was delayed until late October is because Strzok wanted to place focus on the Trump investigation because he wanted to get it done before the actual election took place. Strzok is a political actor. There's no question about this. And even Horowitz essentially suggested as much in that much maligned IG report. So it looks, you know, if the FBI was not out to get President Trump, it certainly looks like Peter Strzok was.
Right, and he was too much of a political hack to be on the Mueller team. I don't see why that reasoning wouldn't, disallow him from being on the Comey team. So either way, he's poisoned it. It's just a matter of how far they're going to take that. Now, the DNC chairman, Perez, he was asked about this woman out of the Bronx, Ocasio-Cortez, who is an abolish ICE activist, an avowed socialist. And here is what the chairman of the DNC said about an avowed socialist. Listen.
I have 3 kids, 2 of whom are daughters. One just graduated college, one is in college, and they were both texting me about their excitement over Alexandria because she represents the future of our party.
So socialism is the future of the Democratic Party, Ben. I don't think the Democratic Party has a future because that's not good.
Well, I think the Democratic Party obviously has moved radically left in terms of identity politics and intersectionality. And Ocasio-Cortez represents sort of the merger of the intersectional wing of the Democratic Party with the Bernie Sanders socialist wing of the Democratic Party. And while it's easy to dismiss the socialism of the Democratic Party, the truth is that we live in a country that tends to swing back and forth between the parties. It's not good for the country that the Democratic Party has moved so far to the left that they're now outflanking some European left-wing parties, because you have to imagine at some point these jokers could be back in power.
Well, I mean, remember what happened with Barack Obama. He took the country way far left, and you saw a huge rebellion with the Tea Party. They destroyed the Democratic bench nationally. They're totally out of power. So we saw what happened there. I just can't believe it. Hopefully it doesn't swing that far to the left, Ben. Got to run.
Thanks so much.
Up next, a socialist who disagrees with everything Ben and I just said is here to defend socialism. Buckle up.
I ain't gonna live forever. I just wanna live
That's the new rallying cry from socialists at the weekend's Socialism Convention in Chicago. Democratic millennials moving towards socialism en masse. But is the movement the future or the destruction of the Democratic Party? Joining me now, Mimi Solsitic, who was a 2016 presidential candidate for the Socialist Party USA. All right, Mimi, I just want to go slowly here because socialism confuses me a little bit. Has socialism worked anywhere it's been tried?
I think what we're working toward is something that we've yet to see. Socialism at its core means worker ownership and control over production.
All right.
So I think it's important that you understand what it means and that your viewers understand what it means.
Okay.
So we're capable of progress.
Okay.
You know?
So did they try socialism in Venezuela?
You know, it's funny that I expected you to bring up Venezuela. It's such a weak talking point. You're talking to somebody who lives in a city that's got over 50,000 homeless people. So this diversion over to Venezuela.
Oh, no, I'm just asking where has socialism worked. Has it worked in Cuba?
Okay.
Has it worked in the
let's
Soviet
look at Cuba's
Union?
literacy rate. Sure, let me respond. Let's look at Cuba's literacy rate. Let's look at their health care. You know, let's look at countries that have universal health care and how they rank against the United States health care system.
They
far outrank in terms
socialist
of
health
quality of
care in Canada, and a lot of the rich Canadians come to America to get their surgery. But let's just move on.
The last time the world.
Let's just move on. I don't want to
move on because you're wrong.
Okay, that's your opinion.
And you don't even care that you're wrong, which is bizarre.
No, I don't believe I'm wrong, but that's fine. We can move on. I just don't want to get bogged down on other countries. Let's focus on America here. You want socialism to replace capitalism here in America?
Of course I do. I mean, to say that I'm a socialist, that I don't want to see an end to oppression and exploitation, of course I want to see socialism replace capitalism.
I pay about 50% in taxes to the government. How high would you like to see my taxes raised to?
We would support a steeply graduated progressive income tax.
How
as
much?
It stands right now, the U.S. has...
I mean, let's just take me for an example.
Can you stop interrupting me for a second?
No, I'm trying to move the conversation forward. I want to get specific on your policy.
Sure.
What would you like to see me pay in taxes?
Okay, let's say this. I don't know how much you earn, but let's just say hypothetically it's $1 million, right? Let's say you were taxed at 70%. If you can't get by on $300,000 in a country where so many are struggling, just let me finish. This is why you're having a problem right now. This smug smarminess in the face of suffering, it's not resonating with folks. Your days are over.
Well, listen, I would say this. I would say in the countries that have socialist policies, there's more suffering. In China, in Cuba, in Venezuela, and the Soviet Union, that system didn't work. And it wasn't those countries, and it's not those countries that feed the world and protect the world. It's the United States of America, and we have capitalism
the United
at
States
its foundation.
Destroys the world. The United States feeds and protects the world? You got to be kidding me. Conservative estimates since World War II show that the U.S. has killed at least 20 million people since World War II. The United States is an imperialist country. Its riches are built on the backs
I don't know what you would have done with Nazi Germany.
The developing world.
I don't know what you would have done with Nazi Germany, but I think America made the right decision there.
Are so weak.
Mimi, I will have you back on, and we'll give you more time, and we can discuss things in more specific. But you know what? We got to pay the bills because we got to sell advertising. We got to have a commercial break.
I know you do.
Thank you very much. Up next, Diamond and Silk on Pocahontas, Low IQ Maxine, and Sinbad. Stick around.
So what's the scenario? Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? Ayo, Bo knows this, and Bo knows that. But Bo don't know jack, cause Bo can't rap. Well, what do you know? The D-Dog is first up to bat.
During his Montana rally on Thursday, President Trump launched his latest attack on Elizabeth Warren, he calls her Pocahontas, challenging the Massachusetts senator to prove her Native American claims.
When I announce they are going to endorse me, because if I lose, should I lose, or if I don't run, they're out of business. Who's going to cover? They're going to cover Bernie? Hey, they're going to cover like Sleepy Joe Biden? They're going to cover Pocahontas? Who was... Think of it. Think of it. She of the great tribal heritage. What tribe is it? Let me think about that one. Meantime, she's based her life on being a minority. Pocahontas. They always want me to apologize for saying it. And I hereby, oh no, I want to apologize. I'll use tonight. Pocahontas, I apologize to you. I apologize. To you, I apologize. To the fake Pocahontas, I won't apologize. No, it's causing her problems. You know, that name's good because now even the liberals are saying, take a test. Take a test. You know, I tell you, I shouldn't tell you because I like not to give away secrets, but this one. Let's say I'm debating Pocahontas, right? I promise you I'll do this. I will take, you know those little kits they sell on television for $2? I'm going to get one of those little kits. And in the middle of the debate, when she proclaims that she's of Indian heritage, because her mother said she has high cheekbones. That's her only evidence, that her mother said she had high cheekbones. We will very gently take that kit and we will slowly toss it, hoping it doesn't hit her and injure her arm, even though it only weighs probably 2 ounces. And we will say, I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian.
Joining me now with their thoughts, Diamond and Silk. Wow, that, ladies, was one of the best performances I've seen the president deliver in a while. Do you think Pocahontas is going to take the test?
She should come clean.
Yes.
The president had us rolling, but Pocahontas or Elizabeth Warren should come clean about her heritage.
Yes.
And she should also come clean about what's going on down there at the border. She should come clean, and instead of blaming President Trump, she needs to also come clean and let everybody know how they were being hypocrites, how she was being hypocritical because she did not protest against Obama and his administration when he had children locked up in cages.
That's true, and I don't mean to disparage her when I call her Pocahontas. I'm just mimicking the president a little bit, having a little fun, and she brought that controversy on herself, and she could easily put it to rest, but something tells me I don't think she's going to take the test. I don't know why. I want to ask you guys another question about the president's performance at that Montana rally. Check out what he said about your friend, who I know you guys are tracking down somewhere, Maxine Waters. Roll it.
I said it the other day, yes, she is a low IQ individual, Maxine Waters. I said it the other day. I mean, honestly, she's somewhere in the mid-60s, I believe that. He will be impeached. I will impeach him. Even the Democrats are saying, how are you saying that? They don't want to use that word because it gets the Republicans out to vote. They say, stay away from that word. Especially since he's done nothing wrong. That helps also, right?
Yeah, now Maxine's in a little bit of a beef with some of the top Democrats. You know, Chuck Schumer told her to pipe down with all the crazy talk about Russian people out of restaurants, and now a bunch of black Democrats are saying, hey, you know, leave Maxine alone, crying Chuck. It's just a little civil war over there on the Democratic side. What do you guys think?
Oh, yes, it is. And the president is right. Maxine Waters' IQ is very low. Anytime a congresswoman go around and we look at her as a domestic terrorist. She's telling Americans to attack other Americans. It's a problem. But you know what? Maxine Waters and her rhetoric is like the gift that keeps on giving to the Republican Party. So we want her to keep talking.
That's right.
Because she represents the party of divisiveness.
That is true. She does help Republicans a lot. I wouldn't go so far as to call her a domestic terrorist. That might be a little over the line, but, you know. Lastly, remember Sinbad from back in the day?
Yes,
well,
we do.
Sinbad, I think he popped out of the pirate ship and reemerged on some cable news station and took some shots at the president's Twitter habits. Let's listen.
He loves being able to Twitter slam people because you don't have to see him face to face. He's not good with that.
Are you suggesting that, not unlike Drake's observation, people with Twitter fingers sometimes aren't as hardcore when you meet them in person?
Oh, man, they're keyboard gangsters, man. Most keyboard gangsters, man, wouldn't hurt a fly, brother. That's why they live behind the keyboard.
Keyboard gangster, President Trump. What do you think about Sinbad's assessment?
Well, you know, what's wrong with Sinbad is he's trying to revamp his career, so that's why he's name dropping the president.
Yeah.
But what he need to do is think about his own self. Look at his own self. We here in this world, and he's still living in a different world or in another world. He need to come back to earth. And listen, we don't look at him as a comedian. We look at him as nothing but a joke.
Well, I don't think other people look at him as a comedian anymore either, ladies. All right, gotta run. Diamond and Silk, everybody. Up next, an exclusive interview with a 16-year-old who was attacked for being a Trump supporter. Another day, another show of hatred against Trump supporters. This time, a 16-year-old boy was attacked by a man at a San Antonio Whataburger simply for wearing his Make America Great Again hat. Watch.
You ain't support.
Okay.
It's gonna go great in my.
Unbelievable. Hunter Richard is the proud American who was bullied, and now he joins me in a Waters World exclusive interview. So, Hunter, did you say anything to provoke this? Were you talking about anything, or did he just come out of the blue?
So before he actually came over and immediately ripped off my hat off my head, I don't believe any of my friends or even me made eye contact with him.
Were you talking about anything that may have alarmed him? Were you talking about the wall? Were you talking about, I don't know, Little Rocket Man? What were you saying?
I believe the conversation when he came over was about Pokemon. If we saw some funny thing on Twitter.
Okay, so totally unprovoked. And this guy's now been arrested, and he has quite a little rap sheet. He's got a past arrest for DWI, marijuana, burglary. So he's not a good guy, and he's been fired from his job. Did you feel scared when he came over? Did you have any idea that he was coming over in an aggressive fashion?
I had no clue he was coming over, and out of nowhere, I saw his hand come over. He ripped the hat off my head, basically bear clawed it. He kind of pulled my head a little bit, and then I was pretty shocked. I felt a little bit threatened.
So he threw the soda right in your face.
Yes.
Did you think about doing anything? He looked a little bit bigger than you.
Yeah, he was definitely bigger than me. That's kind of the whole funny thing. This 30-year-old guy, an adult, knows that he can pick on a bunch of teenagers, so he thought, oh, this is going to be funny, and yeah.
So you've pressed charges against this guy, or you plan on pressing charges?
So we went to the police, we gave a statement and everything. I think it was basically out of our hands whether or not we were going to press charges. I believe the charges we pressed were for theft.
For theft, because he stole the hat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I probably after this airs, you might get a hat sent to you, maybe 1,000 hats, or I'm sure you'll have a nice little "Make America Great Again" hat collection after this incident. I'm glad you're okay. Anything you want to say to this guy or to people watching at home?
I just say that this isn't acceptable. The whole reason that I'm doing this is that no person should think this is acceptable and that they can get away with it. But I do say, though, that people make mistakes, so I'm not really holding against this guy. He made a mistake, and this is not acceptable.
All right, Hunter, very mature reaction. I probably wouldn't have reacted that way or said that, but I appreciate your civility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Up next, last call.
Feel like you do ballet, yeah. Hold tight when you tiptoe. Say something when you tiptoe.
Time now for last call. Nearly 40 million Americans hit the road this week for the 4th of July holiday, and for some New Jersey drivers, it was terrifying.
Yes, ma'am. He's now gone off the road again. He's now gone off the roadway again. He's gone sideways. He's now crashed into the other side, oncoming traffic. Pull away now. He's actually pulling away, going now up on the road eastbound. Oh, he just crashed into a car. He just ran a white car off the road.
Now the cops finally got him, and the brave guy who filmed all this is a New Jersey local who followed the wild ride for 15 miles. before the police pulled him over. He had a little dash cam there. Looks like police say he was driving high on heroin. Unbelievable, but he's off the road. Thank God. That's all for us tonight. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Justice with Judge Janine is next. And remember, I'm Waters, and this is my world.
Con lo mío todo se puede. La fiesta la llevo en mis genes. Yo soy la reina de los nenes.